Hello, artists. I really enjoyed listening to the story Beautiful Blackbird by Ashley Bryan. And today we're going to make an art project using some beautiful, bold black lines and then adding some wonderful bright colors on top. We're going to start with a black crayon, and then we are going to add some color. So I have with me a set of watercolors here, a brush, and a cup with some water ready nearby. Those are the supplies you'll need. Some of you may not have watercolors, and I'll also show you how you can add the color with crayons or some markers that you might have around. I'm just going to demonstrate with watercolor. And if you have them, this will be a fun way to use them. What I'm going to do to start is I'm just going to make a circle in the middle of my page with my black crayon. This is going to be the center of my page, but I'm not measuring. I'm just kind of looking and making an estimate where the center would be. And then I'm going to draw some lines radiating from the center all the way to the edge of the page. I think I'll start with a wavy line. So I'm just going to start at the center and wave my line to the edge of the page. You can choose any lines that you like to make. I love to make a loop, 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 all the way to the edge. And I'm pressing firmly because the crayon, which is made of waxes, is going to show up even when the watercolor paint is on top of it, because the water from the paint will not stick where the crayon is. We call that crayon resist. I'm going to be moving my paper as I make my lines. I think I'll do a zigzag. I like starting my zigzag small and then making it larger. Back small again. How about maybe a straight line? Maybe I want to make a bold straight line. I could go twice and kind of fill it in to make a very nice dark line, although that's not perfectly straight. It's okay. Wavy line again. I'm going to repeat that. How about, I call this a wave, but I've heard some people call it a shark line. It looks like a wave. Whoops, my crayon broke. That's okay. Good thing crayons work even when they're broken. I think I was pressing a little too hard. All right. Maybe a castle line. Have you ever tried a castle line? I think this looks like the top of a castle. Over, up, over, down, over, up, over, down, over, up, over, down, over. And it looks like I have space for one more. I think I will do a dotted or a dashed line or a broken line, I guess you might call it. Okay, so I've got some interesting bold black lines. I'm going to put my crayon aside. And now I'm going to think about colors. I know my watercolor set has very many colors. You might have a watercolor set that only has the primary or that has primary and secondary colors. So I'm going to stick with those. I think I want to start with some red. What I'm going to do is get my brush very wet. Let me move the water cup. My watercolor water is already a little bit dirty because I was working before, but you really don't need to rinse it every time. What I want to do though is make sure that there's no pigment left on this brush so that when I bring it into the red color, it's just nice red paint. I'm going to work the water into this pan of kind of powdery paint to create a liquid watercolor. And then I'm just going to choose a section to be red. I'm going to kind of follow the lines, but I'm also not going to worry if I go out of the lines because the black lines will show through and it looks pretty when the edges blend with other watercolors. So I can see my brush is starting to run out of the pigment. So I'm going to go back into the water and tap, tap, tap and make a little more nice red paint. Follow my castle line and follow my dash line over here. Sometimes instead of dipping back into the paint, I can just get my brush a little bit wet and that will kind of spread it out a little bit more. I can see the paint is darker up here and lighter here, but I kind of like that, so I'm going to leave it. I think I'm going to go ahead and follow kind of a rainbow order here. So I am next, for this section, I'm going to dip into some orange that I have. You are the artist, so you will pick the colors that you want to work with after feeling inspired by seeing all of the beautiful color in the book we looked at today. Again, I made some orange paint here by adding some water, and now I'm just going to bring it onto my paper, and I like where it kind of overlaps with the other color. When I'm ready for more, I'm going to dip back into my water, add a little more paint, and just continue. Section by section. I find watercoloring like this to be so relaxing, and it's just fun to watch the color bloom onto the paper. All right. If I'm going to stick with my order that I seem to be going in, I'm going to choose some yellow next. I really am making an effort to clean my brush. Even though I can see this, my water over here has some, it looks kind of pinky orange because it's got some red and yellow pigment in it, but it's still, I don't need to dump it out yet. I can still really get the brush clean and dip into some yellow. Whoops. There I am. I'm going to kind of really make some nice yellow paint there by swirling the drops of water into the yellow. Ooh, this one's a little challenging to paint because I have to decide if I want these loops to be yellow or if I want them to be this color, which will be green for me. I think I'm going to try and keep the yellow out of those loops. But again, as you can see, I'm not trying to do it perfectly. I like when the colors overlap. Actually, I changed my mind. I'm going to go ahead and paint those yellow, and then I think I might mix some of the next color into them when I get there. Just a process of adding water to the paint, swirling the paint, and then adding the paint to the paper. And I would just continue going around. If I just wanted to stick with these colors, I could repeat the pattern. I could use all the colors that I have in my watercolor set. You decide what you would like to do. When you're done, you want to actually, I'm going to leave my palette of watercolors open for it to dry before I close it. I'm going to take my brush and my water over to the sink and very carefully clean my brush and clean the water cup. If I'm putting my brush to dry, I want to make sure I put it facing up. The hair of the brush does not like to be shoved down into a cup. So either dry it flat or dry it up somewhere. It might end up looking something like this when you're done. Now, if you do not have watercolors, what you are going to do is choose some crayon colors, or you might have some markers. I picked out some cool marker colors here because you could also pick out cool or warm colors to use. And then you're just going to fill in your sections with marker. Just taking your time and kind of working through each section. So do not worry if you don't have watercolors. It's fun to use them if you have them, but if you don't have them right now, use any coloring supplies you have. Remember, as we're working from home, we are doing the best we can with the supplies we have. When it's done, and it looks something like this, we are going to put it to dry and then put it in a safe place. Next week, we are going to add some wonderful blackbirds or perhaps colorful birds to this background. So what you've made today is really the background for next week's project. So I hope you enjoyed making it, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.